You know, we used to have myths and legends. We used to have fables and superstitions and morality tales. Nowadays, all we have is pop culture. We have non-stop, unrelenting pop culture. The foundations of storytelling have mostly corroded. The most austere, the most respected story right now is probably Star Wars. Modern pop culture is just sort of this hall of mirrors where the only frame of reference for anything is the thing that just happened yesterday, and everything is a copy of a copy of a copy. Fables, myths, legends, the real foundations of storytelling, they seem to have more or less vanished. All of which brings me to Ugetsu, a film from 1953 based on a book of stories from 1776, which was in turn derived from even older Chinese and Japanese folk tales. I was thinking about ghost stories and I was thinking about Ugetsu, and the one thing that I came up with is that ghosts manifest as a sort of moral stain on the natural world. In these stories, ghosts manifest because they have been wronged to the extent that the natural order of the universe is sort of upended to accommodate either their revenge, their pursuit of justice. This is interesting because it kind of implies an objective morality, at least within the internal logic of these stories. Whether you're a religious person, whether you're an atheist, a ghost story sort of implies that there is an objective right and wrong which governs the natural order of the universe. The ghost story makes for an interesting contradiction in modern times where we're always paying lip service to the idea of everything being relative up to and including morals. You've got these, the fedora tipping atheists who are just, their whole MO is, well, morals are just relative, man. It's just the social contract, man, which, make of that what you will. But the ghost story seems to reassert an objective moral center. Then again, I'm sure you could argue the ghost is a sort of individualist will to power sort of thing where somebody feels so aggrieved that they themselves are bending the laws of the universe and not the laws of the universe bending to accommodate them. In any case, maybe that gets into some of the differences between Eastern and Western ghost stories. In many Western stories, it's often the death itself which is the sin that needs redressed. It's often a murder's been committed, whereas at the center of a lot of these Eastern ghost stories, everything is bound up in a morality tale. There is an everyday moral lesson at the heart of the Japanese ghost story. A lot of Japanese ghosts, they seem to manifest not necessarily through a deliberate action, but from neglect. Someone didn't do something they were supposed to. They didn't kill someone necessarily, but they let someone die. And it's only by reaffirming that responsibility, that sense of either personal or societal duty, that the ghost may be put to rest. I think in a lot of Western ghost stories, the end goal is a sense of justice. We have to find out who committed the crime. We have to put them behind bars or make sure that they get their comeuppance. We have to put the bones in their proper resting place. Where in a lot of these Japanese ghost stories, they seem to resolve in the main characters accepting responsibility. To banish the ghost, to put them at rest, someone must take personal responsibility for their hand in the restless spirit. In Ugetsu, you can find some commonalities with some other Japanese ghost movies. There's a little bit of Kuroneko there. There's a little bit of Kwaidan in there. These are stories that have been sort of told over and over again, that have been tweaked here and there, but maintain much of the same basic structure. Ugetsu follows two men and two women, two couples, during a time of civil war. Now, the men, they're looking to make a name for themselves. They're looking to sort of profit and move up in the world, to sort of take advantage of this societal upheaval, while everybody around them is sort of saying, no, you need to relax. You need to take care of the women folk. You need to stay home. The troops are going to be at the village any minute. What are you doing? Running around trying to sell pottery, trying to become a samurai. That's the one gentleman. He started to make a bit of money making and selling pottery, and he wants to get one big score. He wants to sell his pottery in the city to make a bunch of money, while the other guy, his brother-in-law, he wants to become a samurai, but he's sort of just a poor idiot. War makes for good ghost stories because you have stories about the men who go off to fight and die, and then you also have stories about the women who get left behind, the ghostly widows who leave a candle lit in the window. But anyway, the women are left behind while the men go to seek their fortune, and while our potter friend, while our main protagonist is selling pottery in the city square, two women come up and they say to him, "Gosh, your pottery is so good, we're gonna buy just a bunch of it, but could you deliver it to us? Could you deliver it to us in our house? Out in the thicket, out in the reeds?" And he says, "Sure, no problem." The guy shows up to this stately manor with his pottery, and the woman, she's just so sexy. The woman, she's so sexy and irresistible, and the guy, he can't help himself. She's got money, she's got sex appeal. What's a guy to do but just, hey, forget his wife and kid and the war and all that garbage, and so he shacks up with this dame. Meanwhile, his brother-in-law, he gets a hold of some armor and a spear, and he doesn't actually do the killing himself, but he manages to procure the severed head of an enemy general, to which he is granted a bit of status. So the one guy's shacking up with a dame in a mansion in the woods, while the other guy has become a big shot samurai. But what's become of the women, you might ask? What's become of the dames who've been left behind? Well, the one, she ends up becoming a lady of the night, the wife of the samurai. She becomes a prostitute in a brothel, while the other woman, the last thing we see of her is she and her son are sort of hiding from these marauding enemy soldiers. But one thing leads to another, and our friend with all the pottery, with all the gifts for pottery, it turns out that this dame he's been shacking up with in this mansion in the woods, it turns out that she is a ghost. Would you know it? She is a spooky ghost who wants him to stay with her forever, wants to take him into the afterlife, it is implied. I believe that's what's happening. She wants to essentially get him to commit himself to her forever and then take him into the afterlife. Anyway, I'm getting too into the weeds with the synopsis here. Either you've seen the movie or you haven't. If you've seen the movie, you don't need me to recount the plot to you. If you haven't, you don't need me to spoil it. So just go watch the movie, I suppose. But what it all amounts to is the recurring theme of man's ambition at the expense of his family, in particular at the expense of the women most important to him. More than that, and again, like some other films like Onibaba, like Kuroneko, it shows the differing effects of war on men and women. This was 1953 that the film came out. World War II had just ended 8 years earlier. The film is about not just men's sometimes misplaced ambitions, but a country's sort of misplaced ambitions. We have many films about the cost of war on the soldier, which is a good and worthwhile and important thing to explore, but I think we have maybe less films about the toll that war takes on the civilian, on the country as a whole. Ugetsu is a very sympathetic film. It talks about men and women without lecturing, without browbeating. It encourages both responsibility towards others, but also personal responsibility. It encourages a responsibility to one's family. And again, it sort of correlates a moral upset with a natural one. When you commit these moral transgressions the way our protagonist does, when you shirk your responsibilities, you invite or incur the presence of ghosts, you create a moral stain on the fabric of the natural world. At the end of the film, the potter returns home, and wouldn't you know it, his wife is a ghost too. His wife is a ghost now. The guy left home, he abdicated his responsibilities as a husband, as a father, and now his wife is dead and a ghost, and his son has no mother. I think a lot of ghost stories, they sort of overemphasize the otherness of the ghost. The ghost is very creepy, spooky, scary, whereas in a lot of these Japanese ghost fables, the ghosts are still very much human, but they've sort of taken this supernatural veil of melancholy. Ugetsu has a real overriding sense of melancholy. I think the music, in large part, really contributes to this. The music is really great in this. Lots of weird tones, lots of weird bells that sound like they're echoing in the distance. Good stuff. Anyway, Ugetsu, 1953, Kenji Mizoguchi. Check it out. If you haven't, let me know if you have. Subscribe if so inclined. I write books. If you like books, okay, goodbye. Oh boy, the kids are gonna flip when they see this. Incredible expanding alligator. Just soak it in water, it says, okay.
What is this? Is this a book? Nobody reads books anymore.